morning to everybody. Top of the morning for me. Bottom of the morning, I guess, for everybody else, depending on where you're at in this beautiful world. Um, it's time to continue the live stream that I continued yesterday when I was in the gym downstairs. And we were talking about the WBO new crowned champion, Fabio Wardley. Congratulations to Fabio Wardley, by the way. Okay. For whatever it means. He didn't fight anyone, but he becomes the next British heavyweight champion. Mama Lou, hello, Kurt. Just started you off with your first like. Thank you, Mama Lou. Counter punch to you. And when you guys come in, hit that like button. Hit the like button. I definitely have to replace this device because it's kind of blurry. Let me see if I can. Let's see here because it shouldn't be that way. I don't know if that's any better, but let's see if I can. I don't know if I want to start messing with something. Jay, King number two in the building. What's good, Kurt? How's it going, brother? It's going pretty good, man. I got some decent sleep. Not too good, but not too bad. I think it's got hot here. One thing about Texas, Texas is another bipolar weathered state. They don't have extreme temperatures, which when you're in a state like Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, Wyoming, you have real winters and you have distinct seasons. We don't have that. Hell, it could be 80 degrees in December. You know what I mean? 75 in January, which January and February are like the winter months here. But nonetheless, I woke up hot, right? And I was like, oh, you know what I mean? Because it was colder last night. Now it kind of, the heat rose. But anyhow, um, Anthony K, what's up, Counterpunch? Watching. Okay, what's up, Anthony K? Counterpunch to you from New Zealand. There we go. I was like, free? Watching free? Is that Friday? The AI underdog pick, King number three coming in the building. What's the good news, Kurt? What's going on in the boxing world? We're about to unpack it. We're about to counterpunch it. We're about to do what it does. Mama Lou, hit the like button as you come in. Everyone follow Mama Lou. Hit that like button. Bill knows boxing. What's up, my brother? Ireland in the building. Shout out to Ireland. I got to get back to Ireland. You know, I have to enjoy some pints of Guinness in Ireland. And when I went to Ireland, I couldn't enjoy that. So I got to go back to enjoy that. And I hope Bill is with me, my brother in Ireland. Matisi Sports TV. What's up, Kurt? Counterpunch to you, Matisi TV. Memo underscore Fa said hello. So hello to you. Too legit to quit. Parker was set up. Don't you think? I was listening to another New Zealand fighter named Junior Fa. And he had something to say very interesting. Let me let you guys listen to it for a second. Hold on, let me do this real quick. And when setting that up, Jay, it's good to hear you, bro, but I feel you going to sleep cold and waking up to hot weather must be crazy. It is. It is. Welcome to Texas. Welcome to Texas. Is all I can tell you, man. Because it's cold. It could be cold outside, but it's hot in your car. Crazy. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. But it happens. Only in Tech. Well, I can't say only in Texas because I should say only in the South because the humidity is so bad here. You're gonna get that type of experience. You're gonna get hot, cold. You're sitting in a damn car and then you start sweating. You put the windows down, then it gets cold. Then you're like, damn, you put the windows up, you start sweating again. So it's one of those experiences, one of those situations. Okay. Um, Byron Clark. Oh, cool. I'll pick you up from the airport. I look forward to it, man. Seriously. Ateeth Soul. Hello, Kurt. I think Parker was set up and Usyk decided to play their game and relinquish the title because he thinks Parker was done dirty. I think people understand when interviewers like IFL TV, Seconds Out, Box Nation, you name it. A lot of these interviewers, so you guys will know, they're already prompt to ask certain questions. Okay? And only certain questions. In other words, they don't ask questions that are organic. And that's a very good question. Questions you want to ask is like, you want to ask Usyk, like, what do you think about Joseph Parker testing dirty? First of all, I would ask a question like this: Usyk, what do you feel about fighters popping dirty? What do you feel about dirty fighters? You know what I mean? And then you'll know the standard of how he feels about that topic or those dirty fighters that pop dirty. Then you could, okay, you establish the standard, and then boom. Hey, well, how do you feel about Joseph Parker? The same Joseph Parker that called you out after you knocked out Danny Dubois. How do you feel about him? Popping dirty. Those are the type of questions you want to ask yourself or ask those guys. And there's a lot of things they're like, no, 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 don't ask that. Because believe it or not, when you're asking people certain things, the PR team are already pretty much prompted to tell you, hey, whoa, whoa, no, no, don't answer that, or please don't ask those type of questions, because if you ask someone a question that they're not really educated to answer, it could be awkward. You know, nothing wrong with the Byron. What's the Byron? Nothing wrong with that Byron. Oh, okay. Parker been partying with Fury. The B sample result is all we know. If you were watching the fight and I told you one of the fighters was high on coke, which one would you guess? Probably Fabio. Because Parker didn't really come off as a guy, you know, hanging around cokeheads. You know what you notice though? You're gonna be two ways. You're gonna be either real hype because I guess it depends on who you are, or you're going to be super quiet. You know what I mean? You're not gonna have, a, you know, no, because in Parker's, he's a quiet guy, but I just don't see him with the demeanor. I don't see the signs of, you can't keep the Mark Anthony. You guys seen Mark Anthony lately? I don't know if you guys, the pop singer, the Puerto Rican New Yorker that can sing really well. They used to call him the current Frank Sinatra at one point, but he did a concert in Colombia. Colombia. He did a concert in Colombia, and this cat came out, and his mouth could not stay still. He was forgetting words, and people started to boo him because they know, like, dude, we've been listening to. If you guys listen to Latin music, I don't know if you do or not, but Mark Anthony is a legend. Okay, he's a living legend. I mean, he's probably mid 50s, late 50s, if that, and he looks every bit of 68, 69. He looks like he's down there 70 because he's been getting high for a long time. The lifestyle that he is in or he's involved in, and you can see it's taking a toll. However, it's like, dude, if you seen and you heard songs from what he used to sing, back in the day, I mean, he came out with three Latin albums before he crossed over. And those albums were classic. And then you go to Colombia and you don't know the words. That's bad. XK shot. XK shots. What's up, brother? Counterpunch to you. Sorry, we have to go back to work. Have fun and enjoy the channel. Byron Clark, counterpunch to you. Thank you for stopping by. Usyk dropping the belt to get that three times undisputed title. Smart. Yeah, it is smart. It's clever, but then at this point, it's more like a strategy or a marketing strategy. How you know? But then here's the thing: if he does, he dropped the belt, and if he fights Fabio right away, you already know what that is. Which still, if you know what he's doing, would you be? You can't complain that he's ducking Fabio if he turns around to fights Fabio. Because I mean that's just it doesn't make any sense. So what do you want? You want him to duck him and fight somebody else, or you want him to fight Fabio Wardley for another undisputed opportunity? You know what I mean? I will say that because we know what he's doing, the whole idea of two or three times undisputed really doesn't mean as much as it could have meant, if he, let's say lost it, but then he would have to lose it to become another time undisputed champion, right? So, that's probably the best case scenario on him becoming another time undisputed champion. So there you go. Any more news on Parker yet? We haven't seen the B sample. I do question, why does it take so long for the B sample? You know, Conrad Francis. I wonder how Usyk would deal with a loss. That's a very good question. And it's funny. I remember when Wilder was defeated and how bad he took it. And then it was like everyone was talking about, oh, well, had that been me. Because Tyson Fury mentioned, well, he's just taking it like a bitch and he's not taking it well, poor character and all this, that, and the other. But then how did Tyson Fury take a loss? You know what I mean? So I don't think you know how you take a loss unless you take a loss. Maybe Usyk doesn't know how he would take a loss. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he may do what Lomachenko did when he lost to Haney. And, he just got frustrated and pissed off and broke into tears, busted into tears, like in the back dressing room, just was like, dude. And it's for me, I thought it was sad. For others, I think others attacked Loma because people praise Loma based on their own, pigmentation bias. I didn't look at that. I seen a gifted athlete that was aging, and because he was aging and it was older, he wasn't getting a fair crack at the whip. That's what I looked at Lomachenko, and I knew and I called it when I was in Sasua, when I did that drunken live stream. If you guys know, it was lit, and so was I. I was on Mama Juana's, I was on Presidentes, and I was on that fight, commentating that fight live at Flip Flops Bar and Grill in Sasua, Dominican Republic. And what I noticed and what I called was, Vasily Lomachenko was going to lose a decision to Devin Haney, and that's exactly what happened. Because Devin Haney was the younger fighter, the fresher fighter, the undefeated fighter, and because of that, I figured like, hey, this is what's going to happen to this fight. Loma is too old to be marketed and winning decisions. Usyk wouldn't be too fussed; it would only spur him on. I don't know. I would like to say that based on his character, but I think we'll see it when we see it. Peace, Kurt. What's the current stance on Parker? Seyi Isaac Oyatan. We're waiting for the B sample, and I wonder why and how long and why does it take so long for the B sample? It's like, look, test the shit. What are you waiting on? You have it, test it. That should be really in a real world. on how it normally takes things to get done. I understand when you take samples, you got the A sample and the B sample. Well, the A sample, you test it, and then the B sample is either put away, the blood and urine, or is in some kind of refrigerator, kept fresh, right? Okay, you know where it's at, send it off to wherever it is or wherever it's going to be tested, and then it should be a certain time frame before it comes back. All this 2 or 3 week shit doesn't make sense to me, you know? Fury did say he didn't know how he would react if he ever lost. Well, we know now. Yeah, we do. I think Usyk dropped the IBF belt as a crumb to find a worthy challenger. Maybe the same with the WBO. Maybe. I mean, it's ingenious, actually. I mean, because it's a clever way to do something that someone has never done. It's just a clever way of doing things. Like, hey, okay, this is how you become 3 and 4 time undisputed champion. But at the same time, not be at a stronghold when these sanctioning bodies are trying to demand shit from you. I mean, that's how you run it. It's ingenious because you're showing and you're telling the sanctioning bodies, for those who think the sanctioning bodies are just full of shit and they're just a money grubbing organization that has been corrupting boxing for years, and in cases that's true. But it's a way to tell those sanctioning bodies that you don't run shit here, but at the same time, I know how to navigate through your bullshit. See, undisputed championships, when you have all those belts, you have all those responsibilities. You're dealing with all the corruption too, all the bullshit, all the stress, all the frustration, all the politics. You're dealing with everything involved with the WBO, the WBA, the IBF, and the WBC, right? And the IBO, right? The Ring Magazine. At that point, things, you're not going to please everybody. And I don't know what's really going on with Usyk, but Usyk actually, him dropping the belt shows he didn't want to be pressured, you know. But I think what Fabio will do is something opposite of Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker took that leap of faith to fight Fabio Wardley and got cheated. Oh, he got cheated. Yeah, he got cheated. Because I think it was a setup for him to lose. Because that was the only opportunity and the only other time that people could take him away from that fight. The one opportunity, if someone knew the only chance we have to cheat a certain fighter or to stop a particular thing from happening is this particular time. Think about it. There was no other time for Joseph Parker to be cheated besides the Fabio Wardley fight. You fought a British fighter in the UK, knowing if you would have waited, clearly, you would have waited, you would have got the opportunity to become a WBO champion. Now, the question is, how would Joseph Parker feel about being a WBO champion without actually fighting anyone? You think he would be happy about it? I don't think he would, because I think he's accustomed to fighting for it. You know? AJ versus Paul will have all the rules to fight with Mike had no pure power. I don't know. That's why I didn't judge AJ too harshly. Okay, AJ. They have B sample results just not released to the public yet. Well, if it's the same thing, then how do you prove he didn't do coke if he didn't do coke? If Joseph Parker, this is a totally different issue, because see, even if he would have beat Fabio Wardley, this shit would have popped up. Poor Joseph. But here's the thing. Would he have been tested if he would have took the fight? If he wouldn't have took the fight, would he still been tested? You know? Hello, Alex. Counterpunch to you. Been trying to call Joe to get me a few bags in. Like, yeah, man. Joseph Parker probably punch you in the face. You call him with that. Hey, Joe, you got any bags? Bags? What kind of bags? Speed bags? Heavy bags? No. Coke. That'd have been hilarious to give you a good right, straight right across your face. That's buzzing. Usyk drops the belt. Crazy. Yeah. But yeah, again, it depends on what he does from here. You know what I mean? I think that depends on everything. What he decides to do after he done what he done. You know? But yeah, I mean, that would be the only opportunity they would have to screw Parker over. And I feel bad for Parker now. But then the question you ask yourself is, when chess pieces move on the board, people, when they move on the board, you got to ask yourself, like, okay, why were they moved? In other words, would if Joseph wouldn't have never fought Fabio Wardley and Joseph would have still been that WBO guy, would Alexander Usyk drop the belt? That's what you ask yourself. Like, would that have occurred if Joseph Parker wouldn't have got beat? You know, Usyk dropped it because this fight with Wardley doesn't have enough worth financially, media, and support worth. He'll fight him later. Well, is it Iya Potiha? Okay. Well, they said the same thing about Parker, didn't they not? Didn't they say Parker doesn't really have a big following and people don't really want to see it and all this? Wasn't that said? Wasn't that in fact said about Parker? So if that's the case, what difference does it make? A lot of people thought that. A lot of people thought that, hey, um, oh, there he is. Jesus. Need a chiropractor ASAP. Usyk dropped 3 belts. If Usyk dropped the belt, he just needs to just retire because that means he's going against progression of what we want in boxing. And you know something? I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but Usyk still hasn't done what Lennox Lewis did. Lennox Lewis had the belts and he defended the belts when having all the belts. And then, yeah, I know there was only 3 at the time, but that was all the belts that you had to have. You know? Let me just say this, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Andy knows nothing about this. Huh? I don't know what Andy Lee knows. Uh, I don't know. I also think that the Coke thing was a plan B. If he had beat Wardley, this would have popped up and his victory overturned. Um, Soul, a teeth soul. I think that probably was already into play too. That might have been the case because if the whole plan was to get Joseph out of there, that probably was already the thing that was whatever, right? Coerced. You know what I mean? Before that happened. So in other words, if they took his B sample and they contaminated it, they did that because they were unsure that Parker would. Because see, people thought that Parker was just going to outbox Wardley, and again, credit to Wardley because Wardley showed that hey, he can box a lot better than people thought he could. Because people thought that based on the experience, based on the speed, based on the opposition, Joseph Parker was supposed to give Fabio Wardley a boxing lesson on top of what we already saw concerning Fabio Wardley. Fabio Wardley was clearly outboxed by Justice Hooney for like 9 rounds. So what we know, and they went off the fact that, okay, we got a fighter that's tough. We got a fighter that can punch, but we also have an undefeated fighter. So what could we do to help this particular fighter? Let's corrupt the blood samples. Let's corrupt the drug test. So even if Joseph Parker wins, which, you know, there is, see, here's the thing about the referee. If the referee was in on it, and let's say this was all against Parker, if the referee was in on it, he would have to wait for a decent opportunity to stop the fight. And that's exactly what he did, even though the time he stopped it was so blatant because it was piss poor. But he had to find some type of cue into breaking that fight or to stop that fight. But that wasn't guaranteed, because how was he going to stop a fight when Joseph Parker was teeing off on Fabio Wardley or jabbing him and overhand righting him, and the left uppercut that he was really good at throwing? You know, that right uppercut was good for Fabio Wardley, but that left uppercut off the jab was great for Joseph Parker. So it was kind of hard for a ref that has been paid an extra 25K to stop a particular fight to go either way. I think, you know, he had to wait until that happened, but that wasn't a guaranteed situation, because it would have been weird if Joseph would have, you know, you have to wait for that opportunity. If you were, think about it, if you were paid 10 grand, 25 grand to stop a fight, right? Because you were paid to stop a fight based on who you were paid to, you know, favor, right? So you were paid to favor a particular fighter, and you know you're looking at this fight back and forth, but you know I'm paid to see Fabio Wardley win some kind of way, you know. But if it's a back and forth fight, it's kind of hard, like shit. It's difficult to, you know, to stop this sucker. You know, staying active was a good narrative. Wardley was a UK fighter. There's not many fights that would pay Usyk more. At his age, I do. His odds was on point. Okay. Usyk said he'd fight the winner until Wardley won. Usyk is semi-retired, didn't want no more smoke with Wardley. Usyk should retire. He will fight Fury again. Okay, here's the thing, people. If Usyk wants to fight Fury, fine. I have no problem with that. The only thing that I think that he should do if he wants to fight Tyson Fury is to give up every belt that he holds. Why not? Give up every belt that he holds, so it won't be for any titles. It would only be for like pride and glory or something like that. Like, remember when Canelo fought Lara? It wasn't for a belt, but it was 12 rounds, but it was not for a belt. It was just for the pride and glory of who's the better fighter in that particular weight class. And that's exactly what it was. And that's ironic because they fought at 155, which is not currently or officially a weight class, because Canelo couldn't make 154. He had problems making 154. So therefore, you know, they agreed at a catch weight of 155. Okay, so I think Usyk should do the same if he plans on fighting Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury gets what he wants, he's such good friends with Turkey Al Sheikh, then he should give up every belt. He should no longer become a unified champion. He shouldn't become a champion at all. He should become former champion and relinquish all the titles and let someone else fight for him. Then we get the luxury to see these other fighters, possibly the new blood that's coming on to the chessboard, to see who will be victorious. Is it Moses Atoma? Is it Jared Anderson? Is it Bokoril Jololov? You know, is it Anthony Edwards? Is it, you know, a lot of fighters that are up and coming these days? You know, is it one of those Cuban brothers that you keep hearing about? You know, there's a lot of fighters that are up and coming that just don't get enough steam. And if that's the case, let the belts go so the belts can represent the fighter and then the fighter can represent the belt. and they can challenge themselves to a duel to see who becomes the next champion. Not some old heads that are 30 plus, closer to 40 than they are 30, and holding up the belts and holding up the division. We don't need that shit no more. Because if you're not going to fight the best, what good are you? Usyk being generous, he wants Wardley to taste the feeling of being a champion before he may later fight him and collect the belts. That could happen. That could happen. I mean, it depends on what Usyk does. Okay, yeah, all right, Peter, great, thanks. Wardley walked through him. I mean, he went through adversity. He didn't walk through anybody. He didn't really do what Joe Joyce did. That's why I don't agree with the decision because it makes Fabio Wardley appear like a throwback fighter Joe Joyce was, and he's not that. He's not that. He's a tough fighter, but he's not a Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce was indestructible, and he wasn't really known to be a heavy puncher. He just punched hard enough, but then you couldn't take the punches that accumulated from him, but he could take the punches accumulated from you. So that was the beauty of Joe Joyce. Fabio Wardley's a guy that he punches a lot harder than Joe Joyce, but I don't think that he has deserved that title. He just gets saved from his right hand. Okay, and that you can't even say that about the last fight with Parker because it wasn't a Hooney fight. The Hooney performance was way different from the Parker performance. That wasn't the same type of fight. Had it been the same type of fight, we could then say Fabio Wardley was maybe one of those guys, but he's nothing like Joe Joyce used to be. So I don't appreciate people putting Fabio there in that circle with Joe Joyce because I want people to understand what Joe Joyce was special. It was different. And because it was different, he showed that, hey, I'm able to keep a licking and keep on ticking, but then could you keep on licking me? Pause. But anyway, agreed. That's is where it might be a rematch. Crumbs. What is the Turk doing? Fan shopping? I don't know, man. As Usyk's fan and Ukrainian, I would be upset if he'd fight Fury or anyone who's not contender next. I would too, but then if he does, he should be treated accordingly like every other fighter that ducked any other fighter. That's all. We just need to be fair about fighters. And I think the beauty of fighters, they can be ridiculed and they're held more responsible, they're held more accountable because this is not a team thing. You know what I mean? This is not a team sport. This ain't the Dallas Cowboys or the 49ers or, you know what I mean? This is nothing like that. This is boxers that are in charge of their own career. They make their own decisions, them and their team, but then they are the ones that have to say yay or nay, supposedly. But even if they're not, it doesn't matter because they are the ones that's going to take the heat for a team's decision. So they have to be responsible enough to either, hey, well, our team or I don't think. Because he's the only one, they're the only ones that are fighting, not their team. Wardley is a lot faster than Joyce. He is. Usyk, where are you? Wardley is like Wilder if he could box. If we do get Usyk versus Fury 3, we have to remember that Fury still has a good chance. Usyk isn't getting any younger. You know, a fight like that, I don't really care to even talk about it, honestly. I mean, if it happens, it happens. But if this is what we get besides the regularly scheduled programming, I will be upset. You know, I will be upset because you look at other fighters in another era, throwback fighters, Joe Louis. You know what I mean? They're like Joe Louis knew this is what it takes to stay champ. See, people are all talking about this, oh, 2, 3, 4 time undisputed situation, but what people are not realizing is it ain't the thing about becoming an undisputed champ. It's the thing about staying one. I think people they're missing that point. If you want to stay a champion, you have to keep doing things to make that a reality. It ain't just about, hey, I done it, I won. Okay, now then what? It's almost like this. It's almost like getting someone, you really like someone, and then, you're trying to date them, you're trying to be with them, you're trying to show them that you like them. So you're taking them out on dates, you're sending them flowers and roses and chocolates and candy and all this stuff, but ultimately you're trying to romantically be with them. Okay, so you do all this, you put in all this work and this time and this energy and all this and the time and the text messages and the phone calls and all this, and you do all this shit, right? To get this person to be with you romantically, right? And then you become romantically. And then once you smash, then what? It's over? No, it's not over. That's when it begins. Do you see the comparison there? You don't do all that just to smash and say, peace out. I'm out. No. Boxing is the same way. You get all these belts. You get the WBA, then you fight for the WBO, then you get the IBF, then you get the WBC, and then you get all these belts, and then what? Oh, I've won. No, it's time for you now, since you got all those belts, Thanos, to defend all those belts, to continue what you've accomplished. Just like in a relationship, it's a responsibility. So if you know you're going in there to get these belts, but you have no intention on defending the belts, that's really not what your priorities are supposed to be. What difference does it make if you just obtain, I got these belts? Okay, and then what? You have to defend them. Now you're responsible for them. Just like all that time you've spent calling and texting someone only to smash. Well, I mean, is it just that? Did you just want the label or knowing that you got the belts without actually having the responsibility to keep them? I'm just trying to, I mean, and here's the thing. The AI underdog pick, if he doesn't fight Fabio Wardley, what difference does it make? We could say, well, because see, here, even if he fights the next mandatory, people are still going to like, well, why didn't you fight Fabio? Because then they're gonna ask, okay, well, I'm gonna fight Effie Ajagba. Okay, well, why didn't you fight Fabio? Wasn't the WBO there? Because then it will look blatant on when you just decided, no, I don't want to fight this guy. I want to fight this other guy. And then people are going to ask, well, why do you want to fight the other guy? Why do you want to fight the other guy? When you had the same type of situation, you had an obligation from the WBO, but you dropped it. Why? What was so special or what was so difficult about what was the issue with you not fighting Fabio Wardley? People, I mean, those are the things that are going to stick out. You know what I'm saying? It's disappointing. We all were so fond of Usyk because we saw him as a genuine fighter, only to be left feeding like, what the F is happening now? Well, I mean, we're going to ask that because we don't know what the F is happening now. We don't know what Usyk's planning to do. I mean, until now, I mean, until then, we just have to speculate. Like, yo, I mean, he dropped the belt, and that is the last activity that he's done. We don't know why. You know, um, I think people, again, it comes back to the interviewers, the journalists. I think people owe it to themselves to ask genuine, organic questions. See, the minute Usyk dropped the belt, someone's supposed to be flying to the Ukraine to see Usyk and to interview Usyk and to ask Usyk, yo, Usyk, what the F? What are you doing? Why did you do what you did? Eunice Butterball, hello. Counterpunch to you. The AI underdog pick, definitely not the WBC. Think he got a 3 year pass, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the WBC gives everyone a pass if they're making money. They don't really care about you defending your belt as long as you're bringing that 3% in. If you're bringing that to the table with the WBC, bro, it's 2025. You wouldn't have to fight nobody else until someone else gets the belt. As long as you're a millionaire fighter, you're a fighter that makes millions of dollars for fight purses, the WBC will always be okay with you. If you notice that, they'll be okay with you. They won't care if you know. You guys remember a couple years ago when Tyson Fury was still the WBC heavyweight champion and Mauricio comes on like this is very frustrating for Tyson. Tyson Fury is looking for the next opponent and it can be strenuous and we are very patient with Tyson Fury and we will wait and give him time because he is a legitimate WBC champion. And because of this, we are very patient with the worthy fighter. Bro, get out of here. Get out of here with that. But that's what he said. So, wait, I am not a promoter, so I will not assume that this process is very easy and we will give him patience. So you're saying you're not a promoter, but you're also saying because you're not a promoter, you won't make him fight something that you obligate him to do based on your rules. Boy, Mauricio sucks cock. That's a he's a big bullshit artist that speaks. He's a bilingual bullshit artist. That's all he is. He likes to practice the English language, as he speaks it. We are very privileged to keep Tyson Fury a current WBC champion. He does not have an opponent, so we will give him ample time. God. How does Dubois dodge Parker, then get Usyk? Parker next for Usyk, but Fabio Wardley asked him to fight. Frank Warren is set up. He's a piece of shit. Matchroom breaking him down. Well, it ain't Matchroom. It's not Matchroom at all. It's just, I think that's inevitable. What if Frank's corrupted, I think it was going to bound to happen. And I'm going to tell you why. He has too many fighters. He has Aget Caballo, Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley, Danny Dubois, Adelaide. You know what I mean? I mean, he has a lot of talent. And when you have all that talent, you can afford to be a Fidel Castro. You can become Fidel because you have everything. It doesn't matter. I mean, he can do what he wants with the fighters that he has because he has damn near all of them. He's like Al Heyman in the welterweight division back in the day. The throwback Al Heyman that had Sean Porter, had Keith Thurman, had Errol Spence. He had a lot of fighters. He had the Charlos, he had Lara, he had everyone. He had Jared Swift Hurd. This man had everything from 154 to 160. Damn, really to 168. I mean, he had David Benavidez. I mean, when you have that much talent, you can afford to do whatever you want because there's no one stopping you. There's no one challenging you. There's no one offering you an opposing fight with their fighters. He has them all. So he can do what he wants. He can play God over there. And that's what Frank's doing. He has too much talent. And Joseph Parker is a guy that he's not old, but he's aging. He's not in his 20s. He's closer to 35 than he is to 20 to 30. And that being said, he may not be looked at as an older fighter, but he's actually primed to become an older fighter one day. And that being said, based on his experiences and everybody that he's fought, I mean, Joe Joyce, Dillian White, Anthony Joshua, Derek Chisora twice, all these fighters that he's fought, Deontay Wilder, Martin Bacali, Zili Zhang, he is an older fighter in Frank's eyes, and there's no reason that Frank should give him an opportunity that he could give a younger fighter. That's just business. So yeah, Frank, I don't think Frank wants Joseph Parker to be that dude because Joseph Parker is a dude that will soon be out of here. And if he, but the thing is, he was doing things that he didn't supposed to do, and Frank had to, put some shit, or someone had to put something in place where Joseph Parker had to be derailed a bit. I think this is just a detour tactic because it's like, how do we stop Joseph Parker and how do we take the position from him and how do we get him out of the way? Easy, you know. You buy a ref and you set up a drug test. Hold on. I'll let you guys listen to this, right? Uh, let's see. Okay, let's see. There we go. All right. All right. Here we go. Here's Junior Fa.
Probably warning now, but I've done this drug test a few times now, and it's mostly impossible to contaminate. If it does come back, if the B sample comes back clean, they're going to have to do a full-on investigation, because what happened to that A sample? People will not sound so crazy anymore in my comment section saying that he's been set up by Frank Warren, even though I believe that Frank Warren has not been good for Joseph Parker. I still think that the whole tampering thing is just a bit much. That's a bit tinfoil hat type of talk for me. But if it turns out to be that way, then whoa, chuck me a tinfoil hat, bro.
So that's Junior Fa. And he said he doesn't believe Frank tampered with anything. That's a bit much, but he does think that Frank hasn't had the best intentions for Joseph Parker. And I think that's a safe way to explain it. Because you're saying that, hey, Frank is not the best for Joseph Parker. You don't think that he's done the best for Joseph Parker. But you're not going to push it any farther than that. You know what I mean? Why are you thinking that? And in sense, that's the point. If you feel that Frank doesn't have the best intentions, why would you be against the idea of him actually doing something like that? Don't blame AJ. Just take a tune-up and $50 million in his pocket. I have no doubt that Frank will do what it takes to get his way. He has previous with organized crime. Peter Fraser, brother, see how the Palms are always getting this right to fight all the time. What the hell's the Palms? Parker shouldn't have switched to Eddie Hearn. Parker should have switched to Eddie Hearn. It's all conspiracy. That said, boxing is a murky business. Boxing is a murky business. Joseph Parker had to be put on pause. That's how you do it. You know what I mean? This man tested positive for cocaine. And I think what it is, it's like, think about it. Cocaine could be added to a drug test. Motherfucker could put a couple, just dap a little bit of that shit in there and close it up. You know. I don't know, man. If it is the case, that's very scary. Because that meant they're out to get Joseph Parker. And if that's the case, Joseph Parker, people, should just walk away from the sport. He could try to sue somebody and, hopefully can get some money that way, some justice that way. But Joseph Parker, man, if they're after him like that, if everything that people are saying that Frank Warren might have contaminated it or had someone to contaminate his A sample with cocaine, if he's going to go to that degree and that is true and it could be proven that something like that did happen, Joseph Parker should then walk away from the sport because he's no longer wanted in the sport. His promoter doesn't want him in the sport. The powers that be don't want him in the sport. They want someone younger. They want someone from their country. They don't want a foreigner coming in there that's becoming of age and taking over stuff. They don't want that to happen. Look at the referee. He stopped the fight on some damn punches on the glove and some bobs and weaves, and he stops the fight. He stopped it because he was paid to do it. They don't like Junior Fawcett. He said, "I do think that they don't have the best intentions for Joseph Parker." I'm going to go a step farther. They don't want Joseph there no more. That was just the last nail in the coffin for me. For Joseph, it was just, look, put that last nail in the coffin. Yo, you've been doing cocaine. You know everybody was going to say Tyson Fury gave it to him, but that might not have been the case. What if Joseph Parker don't even do coke? Maybe he probably saw. I bet you he seen Tyson Fury take a couple bumps. I bet you he seen Tyson Fury take a couple bumps. I bet you he seen him take a couple lines. Now, did he partake? If he didn't partake, okay, but that's what people are going to say anyway. So, yeah, I don't think that that's the case. I think what happens in this situation is, Joseph Parker, he's going to get banned for 2 years, you know, and by the time he comes back, nobody will give a shit. Nobody will care in 2 years if Parker comes back or not, because Parker's not the premier fighter anyhow. We don't even know if Parker will beat Agate Caballo. And see, Carlisle is actually being treated like shit. Oh yeah, he's been treated like shit. He's not been treated like those British fighters. Everyone knows, like Derek Chisora and Fabio Wardley and even Joe Joyce, Danny Dubois. All of these guys have got opportunities. Think about the British fighters and think about the shit that they were able to have to do. How did Danny Dubois and like Joe Joyce? He's British, but what's the problem with Joe Joyce? He's old. So no, they wouldn't gonna market Joe Joyce, and he's slow. So what inevitably is going to happen? Somebody was going to figure out that if I keep hitting that big ass chin of Joe Joyce, it's going to eventually give. It's going to eventually crack, and that's what happened. They just needed someone big enough, a big enough puncher for that to take place. But anyway, I mean that's a strike against him. Joe Joyce is old. Danny Dubois is young. How many times he became champ? Twice. He became the WBA, got the opportunity to fight who? Alexander Usyk. He quit in the ninth round. Boom. He's back again. He is back again, and he becomes the WBF, which he fought his way to that particular victory, but he got the opportunity. Okay? Joseph Parker ain't got no opportunities nowhere. He didn't do nothing wrong. He whooped every ass too. But what happened? They snatched that opportunity from Joseph Parker because they didn't want him to get that opportunity. You think if the roles were reversed and Joseph Parker had the opportunity, no. They would have blasted the shit out of Joseph Parker. Matter of fact, they would have made Joseph fight Danny Dubois if it meant Danny Dubois being the challenger for that IBF and Parker being the IBF champion. If Parker was the IBF champion, they would have made that motherfucker fight Danny Dubois. Well, he has to fight Daniel. He's signed a contract, so sick or not, he's gonna fight. He's gonna have to fight. So when he comes in, he's just gonna have to fight. You know what I mean? Joseph Parker should fight Usyk. Joseph Parker, a two trick pony, hell of a nice big string, but his works, That's a lot of truth in that Kurt. But Caballero should have been calling out Parker, and Parker should have been calling out Caballero. Well, here's the problem. Joseph Parker and Nugget Kabayel are two big dunces. They're two big dunces, man. They're not really, they're not call out guys. They're regular dudes. They're gifted physically and all that, and they've done this and done that, but they are not. They don't have. They're not Westerners. They're not from the UK. They're not from the USA. Okay, and see, not everyone's a brash, prideful, self-absorbed person. See, the thing about Westerners, and even the South, or was it the transatlantic mindset? People are groomed to think about themselves. The look in the mirror type. It's also true that Parker seen Wardley as a cherry pick after the Hooney fight. Nah, he didn't see him as a cherry pick. They should have been looking at him as a dangerous fighter based on how that right hand closed the show. But here's the thing: they did see Fabio Wardley as a win. They thought they could win. So I mean, I don't know about a cherry pick. I think they thought it was a winnable fight. Yeah, they thought it was a winnable fight. Andy Ruiz can knock out Usyk. Andy Ruiz versus Usyk to me. You know what Andy needs to show me? Andy needs to get his ass back in the ring and show me that he can cut off the ring, because the number one thing about Andy Ruiz, the one disappointing thing I noticed about that fighter, you got all the hand speed in the world. He can throw fast punches for a fat dude, and he's now looking like a little bulldog. If you seen Andy Ruiz lately, Andy Ruiz has lost a lot of weight. And he looks like one of those guys that his body's shrinking, but his head's still fat. You know what I mean? His body's slimming down, but he still has this big ass head, and you know what I mean? And he kind of got the humpback, and he's got a long ass torso, and then he got little legs and little arms, and the shit's hilarious, man. It's hilarious, man. But still, he has fast hands. But him losing that weight doesn't mean he can cut off the ring. And if he can't cut off the ring with Usyk, those combinations mean dick, because you can't even put yourself in position to land those combinations if you can't keep up with the footwork and the foot speed of Usyk. Because Usyk is going to jab, jab, left hand, backhand, jab, jab, left hand to the body, right hook across the top, then out of the way. He's going to do that shit all day. Feint, feint. He's going to get, man, he will box. He will probably frustrate Andy if Andy doesn't know, hey, let me fight this cat like Salido fought Lomachenko. If he can't fight Usyk like Salido fought Lomachenko, he's not going to beat Usyk. He's going to get beat up, he's going to get peppered, and he's going to get embarrassed. And if he gets tired, he may get stopped, because Usyk ain't going to stop. In fact, Usyk ain't a Lara. What Usyk does, he puts that shit into another gear. Oh, I'm whooping your ass, huh? Oh, I'm out boxing you, huh? Oh, how about this? And he's going to keep doing that. And he may stop Andy if Andy can't keep up with all that movement, all those feints, all that side to side. He is going to stop Andy. That's how that fight will be. If Andy hasn't learned to cut off the ring. Because Andy wants people to come to him because he has short arms. But the short arms are fast. But he has to be in position to land. You can have all the fast hand speed you want, but if you got little short ass arms, you ain't going to touch shit. And you're definitely not going to touch a fighter that's leaning back You know what I mean? And he's out of your line of attack. You won't be able to hit him. A fighter leans, you have to reach. When someone leans, you have to reach, especially when you have those little ass arms like Andy has. Loma coming talking about a comeback. Loma needs to go home and fish and pray. I don't want to see Loma again. They look for all the people like the HBO people, that platform which is dead. He showed us that he gave us good performances, but he also showed us he had a cap. Okay, so he when he went to 135, there was no more moving up for Loma. And I think that was the beginning of the end for Lomachenko. The Jorge Linares fight was the beginning of the end for him. Period. Because he wasn't showing that he was a Mayweather, he wasn't showing that he was a Pacquiao, and he was no longer challenging himself weight-wise. See, the more you go up in weight, the more fighters that you can fight because you're going up in divisions. You're moving up a weight class. There's other opportunities. There's other challenges. There's other challengers at that particular weight class. He didn't do that. He stopped. See, Loma didn't even want to do what Manny did. Manny was at least fighting guys when he knew he wasn't a welterweight. At least he was fighting man at 150, 144, 145. He was at least trying to meet these dudes at a catch weight. Loma said, nah, I'm too small. That's it. So yeah, I think Loma kind of screwed himself because he may not have been able to hurt those guys as much, but I think he could still compete, and I think he kind of screwed himself. Tank did the same thing. Tank Davis did the same thing, and then Tank had that power, right? He had the equalizer at that. He had heavy hands, but they were really fast, and he was really athletic. He was short as shit too, and he decided, nah, 140 ain't for me. No, 140. So when those dudes stopped, when they start complaining about weight classes and stopped wanting to challenge themselves, their legacy fell apart. Nobody really gave a shit about them because they were no longer able to fight the people that could give them a go. So they're stuck with those guys in that weight class. So what happens when the guys that they could fight that they don't fight moves on? The fight's not going to happen, right? Mikey Garcia, Devin Haney. He fought Ryan Garcia, but Ryan is to me is a commercial fighter. I don't even think he's any good. You know what I mean? I think he just kind of burnt out. He was a bright, shining star. He was, a guy that was supposed to be the next De La Hoya. People called him De La Hoya's boy. You know what I mean? His bastard child of De La Hoya and stuff like that. And, he just yeah. I mean, but he wasn't that dude that was the best and all that. Joshua got paid 75 million versus Usyk 2. Joshua is now getting paid 92 million versus Jake Paul. I heard 80 million, but I mean, whatever. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of dough. So, I mean, I don't fault AJ. He ain't got no belt, and that just shows you that people are people don't give a shit what you've accomplished, really. It's not going to happen, but Jake Paul beating Joshua would create so much fun, chaos, and flip the heavyweight division on his head. It would be horrible for boxing because then Jake Paul could say, I'm the best heavyweight and I've beat like the third best heavyweight and I want to only fight certain fighters. And what's going to happen, you're going to pressure other fighters to fight him because of all the damn money that he's offering. So that means you've beat a legitimate fighter, a former two-time heavyweight champion, and you beat him. Now you are better than anyone else that you should be fighting. He's not going to fight a Joseph Parker. He's not going to fight a guy like Aget Caballero. Is he stupid? No. He's going to only want to fight the biggest and the best. He's going to only want to fight Usyk. He's probably going to only want to fight guys like Tyson Fury. He's not going to want to fight other people. You know what I mean? He's gonna want that big money because he's beat someone so far up there in the fucking clouds that, hey, why would I fight someone down below the clouds when I already beat someone that was way up on the totem pole? So no, I mean, I don't think that would be a good thing for boxing. And then plus, this is a YouTuber, so this is a guy that's going to rant and rave and brag and boast and all this bullshit. And he's gonna say, "Hey, I've arrived. I beat a legitimate champion, so I'm gonna be that next coming." And no, bro, no, that would be horrible for boxing. Why do I have a bad feeling about this for Joshua? I have no idea. If he takes the money and he decides to take a dive, I mean, that's him. He sold out for the money. But he wouldn't be the only one, Mike Tyson. Fuck it. Screw it. I can't believe anybody watches Jake Paul fight. I'm going to watch it. Hell, he's going to fight Joshua. You think you're not going to watch that shit? Hell yeah, you're going to watch it. Everybody's going to watch it. It's going to be on Netflix. You're going to watch that fight, bro. For one, it's not a bullshit the zone pay-per-view fight. It's not a bullshit Fox Showtime overpaid fight. It's going to be on Netflix. If you got internet connection and you have a Netflix account, you will watch that shit. So stop. Everybody has Netflix. Every damn country in the world has Netflix, I believe. Right? There's not a place where you don't have Netflix. Netflix is worldwide. I know I can go to anywhere in the world and I can watch Netflix. You know what I mean? I'm not Kurt. Maybe highlights. Okay. You're going to watch it. You're going to want to see who won. Something's going to take place. I hear you, though. But no, Joseph Parker, I don't even know if he would have stayed champion. He would have become the WBO. But you know what? You know something funny, people? We'll never know. If Jake lost, he needs to get to fight you, Kurt. If Jake lost, he won't fight me. I mean, because I think what happens if AJ knocks his ass senseless, you think he wants to fight another heavyweight for less money and less notoriety? How do you go from fighting Anthony Joshua to Kurt DeVille? You want to fight Kurt DeVille, the stunt guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, no. I mean, no, I think at that point, he would have enough sense. If something happens to Jake in this fight, if he gets knocked out senseless, he gets hurt, he's not going to fight at heavyweight again. He's going to avoid the heavyweight division like the plague. I'm just keeping it real. That's what he's going to do. Mohamed Kabayel is the only fighter I'd give Usyk a pass for ducking Wardley. He's not going to want to get hit by a heavyweight no more because he knows, like, yo, heavyweights don't play, and as soon as they catch you, all the foot stepping you're doing and the foot measuring and you're trying to be light on your feet and all that shit, I'm gonna eventually catch you and hit you and render you unconscious. But I think Jake's a lot tougher than people think and give him credit for. But you get hit by AJ, bro. And yeah, I can't wait to see some shit like that. I look forward to it. I just hope it's not BS. But back to Joseph Parker as closing, man. Joseph Parker, man, I feel bad for him now because there's a possibility that he could have been a WBO heavyweight champion. But if you notice, Parker really didn't give a shit about, like, Frank didn't give a shit about Parker being a WBO anything. He talked about everyone else. He talked about Moses Atoma. He talked about Fabio Wardley if he beat Joseph Parker, but he did not talk about Joseph Parker becoming the WBO heavyweight champion or the two-time heavyweight champion. He just talked about the fighters that he only promoted certain fighters, and they were all young. So it is what it is. I'm going to jump off of here, guys. I will be back in the morning, okay, for another live stream. This one is going to be concerning the Ring 4. So we're going to talk about the Ring 4 tomorrow morning. I got some videos that's coming out later today, a couple, and because we got it, this is fight week. This is the Ring 4. I am bummed that we didn't see the Artur Beterbiev fight, but nonetheless, we do get to see Yard take on Beterbiev. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in the morning live stream. It's been cool, Nikki Blue Eyes, baby. Thank you for coming on. I'm about to get off. It's been a good live stream, guys. I gotta go eat and then leave to go to work because this is day 2 of this new filming. So until then, guys, I will see you tomorrow morning. And everyone has been counterpunched. Peace.